Alright, Oregon, let's get it. Back to the Blue Mountains with the Klamath Blue Mountain Lineament, or KBML. This one's gonna take some time. In our last video regarding the Blue Mountains, we discussed a little bit about the terrains and how they were exotic. Many of the terrains in the Blue Mountains are old. Like, really old. But the ones that we have on deck are the Baker, Wallowa, and Olds Ferry terrain. Great, more weird names that I can't pronounce. All of these, though, again, are exotic. They were drug in here from somewhere else. Where are they at, though? Well, we'll start with the oldest. At 300 million years old, this terrain is made up of volcanic material as well as limestone. Limestone is usually the product of formation because it was somewhere tropical, which it was. And how do we know this? Marine fossils aplenty that prove that this terrain came here from somewhere tropical where they typically are. And just as with the exotic terrains that we discussed regarding eastern Washington, they were a product of the conveyor belt of terrains that have been slammed into our area over the last long time. Next up, we've got the Olds Ferry terrain. At 300 million years in age, this one is sort of the home team. The previous one was formed in a more tropical environment. The fossils regarding this terrain show that it was formed a little closer to our coast here in the Pacific Northwest. Pacific Northwest, like further south, plate tectonics be doing plate tectonics thing. Olds Ferry is more on the volcanic side of things. It's got some sedimentary stuff in it, but it's a lot more volcanic. It's got a lot more batholiths. Hey, we remember that word from the Cascade Volcano video. While Olds Ferry might be close to home, it is still younger than the above terrain. Remember, in both cases, these were brought in and slammed together. And when a mommy terrain and a daddy terrain love each other very much, you get the Baker terrain. Baker, though, is a little different, as it's more of the meshing and stuff that came off of those two when they hit. A lot of chert, mudstone, limestone, so on and so forth. It's kind of like the glue that holds them two together. So how big is this thing? Mind you, I've only shown you the map of Oregon, but the Blue Mountains do extend up into Washington and a little bit over into Idaho. We're talking a unit roughly the size of West Virginia, or the country of Ireland. 20,000 square miles. And that we're now in Oregon, we have to use Portland as our stand-in for a city. Portland, of course, being 133.4 square miles, or equaling roughly 150 of this entire body. But here's the curious part. Blue Mountains have a relation with the Klamath Mountains. Spoilers in this image. Several of the terrains themselves that make up the Klamath Mountains, such as the Western Triassic terrain, is very similar to the Baker terrain. Or additional bodies, like the granitic bodies that we find through here, very similar to the volcanic material on the other side of the state. We'll get more into that mountain range a little bit down the line. And of course, this is a really hard sell. And that is, of course, because to mention the lineament implies a line. And again, we don't see this line like we saw with the Olympic Wallowa lineament, owl. So we have to talk about all the stuff in the middle. That, of course, being the Cascades, the Columbia River flood basalts, the glaciers, and a new concept called the basin and range. But up next on the OWL, now KBML series, we have to talk about the next body that came in here that causes a huge problem for this unit, the Cascade Range versus Oregon.